how do we really make sense of all these incredibly complex political stories swirling around us, especially when you hear allegations as serious as foreign influence right at the top? It's just so easy to get lost.
It really is. Yeah, information overload is real. And that's kind of why we're here today, right? To try and cut through some of that noise for you.
Absolutely. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking an impartial, really in-depth look into a whole stack of sources about the recent controversies surrounding former President Donald Trump.
And the goal isn't just listing facts. We want to unpack the accusations, the investigations, the political strategies.
Right. Give you a shortcut to being well-informed, maybe with a few surprising details you haven't heard, and keep it engaging.
Exactly. And we've got a really diverse set of materials. We're talking major news reports, CBS News, The Guardian, The Daily Beast, even CNN Portugal.
Plus investigative reports, like that recent Shaheen Warren Senate report.
Yeah, and even an AI assessment. Dr. Bach McComb asked Elon Musk's Grok about some of this, plus legal breakdowns from Wikipedia, analysis on foreign influence. It's quite a mix.
So our mission is to explore what these sources actually reveal. We're looking at allegations of foreign asset status, the whole classified document situation, efforts to overturn the 2020 election, and even these broader plans for power consolidation.
And crucially, we're sticking to the verifiable facts from these materials, presenting them impartially, helping you connect the dots.
Okay, so let's dive right in. The big one first. That question that's been around for years, the Russian asset question.
Right. This really seemed to ignite back in February 2019. You had former acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe on CNN and CBS News. And he said it was possible President Trump could be a Russian asset. He said the FBI had reason to investigate that, citing what he called an inappropriate relationship between Trump and Russia.
And we should probably just quickly mention, McCabe himself was fired by the FBI. The reason given was lacking candor. He suggested at the time the Inspector General was doing Trump's bidding.
Right, that's part of the context. But interestingly, McCabe's own view on this has evolved.
How so?
Well, fast forward to September 2024. He updated his assessment. He started characterizing Trump not as a knowing, active, recruited asset, but more like a de facto Russian asset.
De facto, meaning?
Meaning effectively acting as one, even if not deliberately or consciously recruited. His reasoning pointed to Trump's interactions with Putin, his whole approach to Russia, his stance on Ukraine and NATO. McCabe said these all raise significant questions.
That distinction is really vital, isn't it? Knowing versus de facto. It suggests someone could serve another country's interests, maybe inadvertently.
Exactly. It shifts the focus maybe from intent to just the impact of the actions. McCabe speculated it could stem from maybe a fundamental misunderstanding of geopolitics, or maybe a desire for a relationship of some sort, be it economic or business-oriented. The key point from his perspective was the benefit to Russia didn't necessarily need Trump to have malicious intent.
That's a really critical nuance.
Yeah.
Okay, so for another perspective, maybe less humanly biased,
Yeah.
you mentioned an AI.
Yeah, Dr. Bach McComb, back in March 2025, posed a pretty direct query to Elon Musk's AI, Grok, basically. What's the evidence Trump is a Russian asset, and what are the odds?
What did Grok come back with?
It gave a pretty detailed breakdown. It grouped evidence into categories. First, financial connections.
Okay.
Grok highlighted things like those 86 all-cash purchases of Trump properties by people from the former USSR between 2003 and 2017, totaling like $109 million.
Wow, all cash.
Yeah, which Grok flagged as a potential money laundering red flag. Not proof of anything specific, but a flag. It also mentioned Donald Trump Jr.'s 2008 comment about Russians being a disproportionate cross-section of their assets, and Eric Trump's 2014 claim about getting all the funding we need out of Russia.
So a pattern of significant, sometimes murky financial links.
Yeah.
What else did Grok mention from earlier on?
It brought up Trump's 1987 Moscow trip, allegedly arranged by the Soviets, and how afterwards he apparently pushed some anti-Western rhetoric. A former KGB officer, Yuri Shvets, apparently cited this as possible deliberate cultivation.
Cultivation, interesting.
Yeah. And Deutsche Bank, too. They were lending to Trump when others wouldn't, right? And at the same time, they were laundering billions in Russian money. Again, no direct proof linking Trump's loans to Russian intel, but it adds to that financial backdrop.
Okay. What about campaign and administration ties? This is where Mueller comes in, I assume.
Exactly. The Mueller report, documented over 272 contacts between the campaign and Russia-linked operatives.
Hmm.
But, and this is crucial, it did not establish a criminal conspiracy.
Right, that's key.
But Grok pointed to examples like Paul Manafort sharing polling data with Konstantin Kilimnik, who was assessed as a Russian intelligence officer, and the Trump Tower meeting, of course.
And the timing of certain things?
Yeah, like Trump's July 27, 2016, Russia, if you're listening, comment. Grok noted the timing coincided with Russian hacking activity. And then later in 2017, Trump sharing that highly classified intel with Lavrov and Kislyak in the Oval Office.
That definitely raised some eyebrows at the time. Okay, so finance campaign ties. What about behavioral patterns?
Grok looked at Trump's consistent avoidance of criticizing Putin even while attacking U.S. allies. That Helsinki summit in 2018 is a prime example, questioning U.S. intelligence over Putin.
Yeah, I remember that.
And his policies. Pushing to ease sanctions, reluctance to arm Ukraine, those recent 2025 negotiations in Saudi Arabia. Grok suggests these seem to align with Russian interests, even if they're framed differently, like America first. The insight here is, regardless of the stated intent, the outcome often seemed to benefit Moscow.
So a lot of points suggesting alignment or benefit to Russia. Did Grok offer any counterpoints? How did it balance this?
It did, yeah. It was careful to include them. It stressed Mueller found no conclusive evidence of conspiracy. Financial ties don't automatically equal state control. And his pro-Russia stance could be personal admiration or deal-making instincts or just plain isolationism. Grok specifically mentioned the lack of a smoking gun. It even quoted Michael Morell, former acting CIA director, who assessed Trump as an unwitting agent at most.
Unwitting. So based on all that evidence and the counterpoints, what was Grok's final assessment? The likelihood.
Okay, so Grok put the odds pretty low for Trump being a witting asset, like someone knowingly taking orders, around 15–25%,
No.
mainly due to lack of hard proof and his chaotic style.
Okay.
But for an unwitting asset, someone manipulated, maybe without even realizing it, Grok put the odds much higher. 60–75%.
Wow, that's a big jump.
Yeah, based on his actions consistently benefiting Moscow and his ego and business history potentially making him a target for manipulation. So overall, Grok estimated a 50–70% chance that Trump serves as some form of Russian asset, but leaning towards chaotic opportunism benefiting Russia rather than direct control.
Which brings us back nicely to how intelligence folks actually talk about this stuff. It's not just black and white asset or not asset, is it?
Not at all. You have terms like controlled or witting asset, that's the recruited spy troop. Then unwitting asset, someone who helps an adversary without necessarily knowing it. And then an influence target, someone exploited perhaps because of their ego or finances or political goals.
And where do most experts land regarding Trump, based on the sources?
Most seem to stop short of calling him controlled, citing that lack of hard proof. But many argue his patterns fit that unwitting or influence target profile. The unwitting asset source we looked at summed it up pretty well. The foreign asset theory is plausible, especially in the unwitting sense, but it has not been proven. We have to be careful not to treat patterns as proof.
Plausible but not proven. And this isn't just a U.S.-centric debate, right? You mentioned international perspectives.
Right. In August 2025, the president of Portugal, Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, actually came right out and branded Trump a Soviet or Russian asset.
He did. Why?
He cited Trump's tepid response to Moscow and what he saw as strategic favoritism towards Russia in the Ukraine war. He worried the U.S. under Trump had become like referees instead of allies, only wanting to negotiate with one of the teams.
And that echoes earlier Trump comments, doesn't it? Like praising Putin's invasion tactics.
Exactly, calling it genius and savvy back in 2022, and his support for Russian peace proposals that involved Ukraine giving up territory and staying out of NATO.
Okay, that's a really thorough look at the complexities of the foreign asset question. It almost naturally leads into another major area of concern, the handling of classified documents. Investigation codename Plasmic Echo.
Yeah, throughout his presidency, his handling of classified info was a constant worry for intelligence officials. Things like mixing with guests frequently at Mar-a-Lago that was seen as ripe to be exploited by a foreign spy service.
Were there specific incidents that really stood out?
There were, like in 2019, showing Bob Woodward classified letters from Kim Jong-un and asking him to keep it secret. And his belief, apparently in 2021, that presidential documents were his personal property. Plus, reports of shredding papers, aides taping them back together, even allegations of flushing documents. And then that departure from the White House described as rushed and chaotic, leading to boxes just being taken to Mar-a-Lago.
So what actually triggered the formal investigation?
It started with NARA, the National Archives, realizing documents were missing in May 2021. By January 2022, they got 15 boxes back from Mar-a-Lago.
And they found.
They found 184 unique classified documents, including 25 marked top secret, 92 secret, 67 confidential. Some even had special access program markings, SAP stuff that needs super secure facilities.
Okay, so that obviously kicked things up a notch.
Definitely. That led to the FBI launching a criminal investigation, Plasmic Echo, in 2022, looking into possible Espionage Act violations, obstruction of justice.
And how did that play out? Subpoenas.
Yep. May 2022, DOJ subpoenas Trump for all classified documents. His own lawyer's notes apparently confirmed Trump was told he had to return them. Then June 3rd, DOJ and FBI visit Mar-a-Lago. A custodian of records signs a certification saying a diligent search was done and everything was in one basement room. But then they subpoenaed security footage. And that footage reportedly showed boxes being moved out of that storage room after the subpoena, which led to the FBI executing a search warrant on August 8th, 2022. They seized thousands of government documents, including TSSCI, top secret sensitive compartmented information, the highest level.
And how were these documents stored?
Apparently mixed in with personal stuff, press clippings, clothes, magazines, gifts, and they found dozens of empty folders just marked classified.
Empty folders. Okay, what was Trump's defense? And what happened legally?
He claimed he had a standing order to declassify anything taken to Mar-a-Lago, but sources say there was no known documentation of such an order. Former officials didn't back it up. FOIA requests found nothing.
So legally?
He was indicted June 2023, 37 federal criminal charges. First time for former U.S. President, Special Counsel Jack Smith heading that up. But then a huge turn. November 25, 2024, after Trump won the election, Jack Smith announced he was dropping all those federal charges, citing DOJ policy regarding sitting presidents.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot to take in on the documents. Let's shift gears again. Another massive controversy. The fake electors plot from the 2020 election.
Right. This was, an audacious attempt by Trump and associates to stay in power after losing. The core idea was to get fraudulent certificates of electors from 7 key battleground states.
Arizona, Georgia, Michigan.
Nevada, New Mexico, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Yep. The goal was to convince Vice President Pence to count these fake electors on January 6th instead of the legitimate ones Biden won, based on these kind of fringe legal theories, sometimes called the Pence card.
And the sources suggest Trump really didn't want to accept the loss.
Absolutely. Testimony, like from Jenna Ellis, suggests that after maybe initially recognizing he lost, he reportedly told aides things like, "I'm just not going to leave and we're never leaving," asking, "How can you leave when you won an election?"
So who was involved in planning this scheme?
Ideas surfaced early, like Rick Perry texting Mark Meadows on November 4th about states sending their own electors. Don Jr. texted on November 5th about multiple paths to subvert the Electoral College.
And the legal architects.
Kenneth Chesebro wrote memos outlining the strategy, even admitting it conflicted with the Electoral Count Act. Rudy Giuliani was central in coordinating it across the states. Testimony indicated Trump himself was driving the plan by early December 2020. RNC Chair Ronna McDaniel testified Trump and Eastman enlisted the RNC's help gathering the electors.
They even chartered flights, right?
Yeah, the campaign chartered flights to rush some late fix certificates from Wisconsin and Michigan to D.C.
Now, I remember hearing talk about a precedent, something about Hawaii in 1960.
Yes. Chesebro and Boris Epstein pointed to the 1960 Hawaii dispute. But our sources stress key differences. Hawaii involved an actual, ongoing recount with a razor-thin margin. The 2020 plot was based on these persistent false claims of widespread fraud. It was a national strategy, and none of the Trump alternate slates had any governor's endorsement, unlike the Hawaii one that was ultimately accepted. So that comparison doesn't really hold up legally.
So how did they actually try to execute this, and what pressure was applied?
On December 14th, 2020, these alternate Republican slates met in the 7 states, sometimes literally down the hall from the real electors, signing these false certificates. Some used conditional language, apparently, to ease concerns.
Did the White House lawyers think it was sound?
No. The White House counsel's office had told Meadows and Giuliani the scheme wasn't legally sound, but Trump pushed ahead. He held a conference call on Jan 2, 2021, with like 300 state legislators, trying to get them to decertify Biden's electors.
And the pressure on Pence.
Intense public pressure, culminating in that tweet during the January 6th attacks saying Pence didn't have the courage, followed by those horrifying "Hang Mike Pence" chants from the mob.
This whole plot led to a slew of investigations, didn't it?
It really did. DOJ investigated, plus individual states. Michigan charged 16 people. Georgia indicted Trump and 18 others. Cheesebro pled guilty there and cooperated. Arizona named 11 alleged fake electors in April 2024, listing Trump as unindicted co-conspirator 1.
Wisconsin, too.
Yep, Wisconsin filed felony forgery charges against Cheesebro and others. And back in December 2023, 10 fake electors there formally repudiated their claims and admitted Biden won. Nevada refiled charges recently after a jurisdiction issue.
And Trump's federal charges related to this.
Those were part of the federal indictment for election obstruction. But like the documents case, those charges were also dismissed in November 2024 because of the DOJ policy for sitting president.
And incredibly, some of these fake electors actually ended up as GOP convention delegates in 2024.
That's what the sources say. Quite an unusual detail.
Okay, shifting to a more current issue again. The stance on the Russia-Ukraine war and sanctions. You mentioned that August 2025 report.
Yes, the investigative report by Senator Shaheen and Warren. It came out August 5, 2025. Its main finding was that the current Trump administration is failing to use core economic tools to pressure Putin regarding the war in Ukraine.
Failing how? What specifics did they find?
The most striking detail was this. 0 new sanctions or export control packages rolled out by the Trump administration in over 6 months. That's compared to 141 such rollouts by the Biden administration since the full-scale invasion in February 2022.
0 versus 141, that's stark.
Yeah.
What did the senators conclude was the impact of this inaction?
Their conclusion was pretty blunt. They said it has weakened U.S. leverage, enriched bad actors, emboldened Putin, and basically signaled a lack of commitment to maintaining effective sanctions. They also noted the administration missed an opening to drive down Russian oil revenue and cause strain in staffing for sanctions effort.
Okay, one final area to touch on.
Yeah.
Project 2025. This sounds like a big policy blueprint.
It is. It's described as a comprehensive conservative roadmap put together by the Heritage Foundation. It lays out detailed policy and staffing plans for a potential second conservative presidency, essentially, a plan to reshape the federal government from day one.
Now, Trump himself has publicly denied involvement.
Right.
Said it has nothing to do with Project 2025.
He has said that. But the sources we looked at show really strong ties suggesting otherwise.
It's just...
Over 140 former Trump administration officials helped write the main document, the Mandate for Leadership. Something like 81% of the authors and editors were directly tied to his first administration.
That's a huge overlap.
It is. And Paul Dans, described as the project's architect, explicitly talked about training and readying an army of aligned, trained, and essentially weaponized conservatives to implement this agenda.
So, despite the denials,
the sources suggest the policy alignment and the sheer number of personnel overlaps indicate Project 2025 functions as, well, a blueprint for his agenda. It shows a clear pattern aimed at power consolidation.
Okay. We have covered a ton of ground today,
Right.
Seriously. From the very nuanced allegations about foreign influence, the unwitting asset idea,
To the specifics of the classified documents handling that whole Plasmic Echo investigation.
then dissecting the audacious fake electors plot, looking at the current stance on Ukraine sanctions, and finally, this Project 2025 blueprint.
And what really stands out, I think, is how interconnected these things can seem. Financial links, policy shifts, legal maneuvers, plans for governing, they all contribute to this bigger picture of governance, influence, and national security.
Yeah, it's like you said earlier, looking at the mosaic, not just the individual tiles. Each controversy adds another layer to understanding potential patterns.
Exactly. Patterns of behavior, patterns of influence, and how those can ripple outwards.
And for you, listening, we hope this deep dive helps. Being well-informed isn't about having every single answer because, frankly, who does? It's more about understanding the right questions to ask.
Right. Understanding the evidence that's presented, where the gaps might be, and how these different narratives get woven together to shape how we all perceive things, how political reality is constructed.
Which kind of leads to a final thought, maybe something for you to ponder. In this age we live in, with just so much information, so much polarization,
How do we as citizens actually tell the difference between, say, calculated strategic action, just pure political opportunism, or maybe even genuine threats to our democratic institutions?
Yeah. And what's our own responsibility in seeking out the full picture? Evaluating the whole spectrum of information instead of just settling for the easy, simplified narratives.
It's a tough question. Definitely something worth thinking about as we all try to navigate these pretty turbulent times.
Indeed. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.